All right, we'll talk about Beyonce winning the Grammy for Artist of the Year. First and foremost, if you'd like to help me grow the channel, it's patreon.com/Jordan142. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated. There's new content that goes up before the general public gets to hear it and that kind of thing, and also new music, new reviews, that sort of thing that are going up. So a lot of cool stuff. Anyway, you know, Beyonce Knowles has always been someone that has always been completely unappealing to me. Um, I'm old enough to remember the glory days of Destiny's Child, and they put out that song Bootylicious, and uh, I remember it had the line, "I don't think you're ready for this jelly. My body's so bootylicious," and it was like something about that was just too I hate to use the word cringe, so it was just too agonizing for me, too ridiculous, too stupid. And you know, at the time there was a trend going on in music of coming up with new slang words, or popularizing new slang words in your song. Like TLC had done a song called Scrubs. That was I think, a better song, but I got so tired of, oh man, that was just everywhere. But anyway, that kind of thing. And so Bootylicious, and that's the first, last, and only uh, song that I ever paid any attention to from anything related to Beyonce. I enjoyed the movie Black is King. Okay. I thought that was an interesting idea, not so much for the music as much as for the fashions and the visual design and the effects and that sort of thing. But her music has never been appealing to me. I don't think I could name one song, and since Bootylicious, the only song I have listened to uh, has been her absolutely abysmal reinterpretation of Jolene, which I could not even get all the way through. And I'm not the first person to point this out, but it bears repeating. Her version of Jolene completely misses, just totally and completely misses the whole point of the song. The actual song Jolene is sung from the perspective, the character that Dolly Parton is embodying for that song is this frightened young woman who is terrified that she's going to lose the man that's the love of her life to this beautiful, stunning seductress that has her eyes on him. And she knows, this character, she knows she can't compete, and she can't she cannot deliver on the level that Jolene is delivering, uh, and so all she can do is go to Jolene and say, look, this person means the world to me, and you could have anybody. I'm just begging you from the bottom of my heart, please don't take this person from me. Just he means, I know it's just a conquest to you, but it's everything to me. That's the message of the song, and that is a beautiful and nuanced and fascinating display of human vulnerability. And that's what makes it such a beautiful and lasting song, because we've all felt things like that deep down in our hearts, probably except Beyonce. But, most of us that deal with the human experience in a real and honest way have encountered feelings like that. There's a meme I saw one time that shows Dolly Parton standing in a doorway, and it's a scene from The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, where she's wearing lingerie with, it's really showing off her tits and everything. And the caption says, "Kind of makes you wonder what Jolene was bringing." But anyway, as far as the actual person, the character in the song, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. And Beyonce comes through and proceeds to uh, just blither all over the place on this, take this amazing song and turn it into another exaltation of Beyonce. Now, instead of a beautiful and tender song about a frightened girl that's doing the last thing, in this impossible place, doing the last thing she can to save her relationship, her marriage, or her relationship, whatever it is. Instead, now we have Beyonce warning Jolene about what a badass bitch she is, and how she, and Jolene better watch out and better not cross her path. And it becomes yet another exaltation of Beyonce, yet another testament to what a badass Beyonce is, yet another ego stroke for Beyonce and nothing else. And the thing is, there is very little that Beyonce says in that song that really anybody can truly relate to, because very few people are on the level that Beyonce is on. And that's why, she and her husband Jay-Z, who, I'm sorry, I'm just venting a lot of things here. Jay-Z is not a very good rapper. He is a clever lyricist, I will give him that, but he has very little percussive accentuation in his voice. He just kind of rambles and mumbles, and he's barely on the beat most of the time. And it just kind of drifts on the beat in a very unsatisfying way. I'm sorry, but for him to get up there and act like there's some kind of great travesty being done to his wife because she has not been given the Artist of the Year Grammy, despite having more Grammys than any other person, any other artist in history, for them to parade around with, for them to parade around as if there is this deeply felt personal transgression that's being done to the both of them because she's not gotten Artist of the Year yet. Go talk to Susan Lucci all the times she was nominated for an Emmy and finally won after years and years and years and years of being nominated. I don't recall her complaining at all. When she accepted the award, she accepted it gracefully and said she was going to go back and keep playing this character that she'd been nominated for all she was worth. And that was for an Emmy, not if I said Grammy, I apologize. That was for an Emmy. She finally got an Emmy for that character she'd been playing for so many years, and she just accepted it and said she was going to go back and keep playing the character for all she was worth. That's somebody who is truly grateful and somebody who has truly earned what they earned something that they deserve. I don't hear Joe Satriani has been nominated for Grammys God knows how many times. He may have won at this point. I've stopped paying attention to the Grammys by and large. But he was nominated year after year after year, and I don't think you heard him complaining about it. But Beyonce, who has been decorated with more Grammys than any other person on this earth, has the absolute gall to carry on this decade plus long public pressure campaign against the Grammys to fork over the Artist of the Year because snap, hand it over, she just deserves it. Somehow. Because I don't think Beyonce, there's this weird aura around Beyonce that she's some kind of significant cultural force above and beyond just being a very popular entertainer. It's kind of like when she performed at the Super Bowl and she had the moment where she puts the word feminist up on the screen in massive letters like it's some big defiant statement. It's like, Yeah, actually, most successful career women with a left-leaning bent described as some concept of feminism. So no, that's not saying very much. You know, people would be more surprised if you weren't a feminist. And then, you know, I think about Michael Eric Dyson, who after Robin DiAngelo is probably the absolute worst of the professional race grifters out there. You know, the are easily the most pretentious, the most full of himself. But anyway, I believe it was in his introduction to White Fragility where he says the words, he uses the words, no less an authority than Beyonce says blah, 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 blah. Why is Beyonce an authority? And the answer is Beyonce is a popular entertainer, and that's about it. And there has been this aura that has been ascribed to her to such a degree that Rolling Stone ran an article, and this is what I noticed. Rolling Stone ran, or what prompted me to make this video, Rolling Stone ran an article that said that Beyonce's Artist of the Year award proves that she's too black for the Grammys. Because, of course, that's the angle that they went with. The artist who has been decorated with more Grammys than any other person on this earth, and who has been snapping her fingers and saying, fork it over because I just deserve it for being me, for over a decade now, who has been who, along with her husband, has been conducting this very asinine public spectacle trying to pressure an Artist of the Year Grammy out of the Grammys year after year. This person, we are supposed to believe, is a victim of racism, because it took longer than what she would have preferred for her to get her Artist of the Year Grammy. After a certain point, it becomes absurd to it becomes absurd to even care about getting Grammys at all. Most artists would be happy with a single Grammy, because you know what the real purpose of a Grammy is? It's for you to be able to say Grammy winner next to your name in all your promotional materials. It's for you to be able to say, yes, this song won the Grammy. Come see me play live, and I'll definitely perform it since it won the Grammy. That's what it's for. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like they talk about with Oscars. Being Oscar nominated never goes away. For most actors and directors, just Oscar nominated is good enough. That's enough to get you that legacy, that kind of legacy aura that that most people crave. Kind of like David Lynch was nominated multiple times for Best Director, never won, but the nominations alone are enough to are enough to be meaningful. To, you know, that he's an Oscar nominated director, that enshrines his work, his body of work, and his movies in the annals of film history forever. You know, legacy secured. And that's, you know, one of the most important, if you don't follow heavy metal, you wouldn't know, but one of the most important figures in heavy metal, King Diamond, was nominated for a Grammy about 20 years ago, which he deserves, certainly deserves from an artistic standpoint, and got nominated. And it's enough that, you know, it gets that foot in the door. Most people outside of heavy metal, it's not like Metallica, where if you don't listen to heavy metal, you're even if you don't listen to metal, you know who Metallica is, or you know who Ozzy Osbourne is, that kind of thing. With you know, King Diamond, he's a god within the heavy metal world, but you're not going to know who he is outside of it, and unless you are unless you're Tipper Gore during the PMRC hearings, or a talk show host from the 80s. But you know, he was nominated for a Grammy, and that alone gives him, you know, secures the legacy in so many ways in ways that it would never be secured otherwise. One Grammy is enough, or even just one Grammy nomination for most artists is enough. That's all they need. Um, that's all they need from the Academy. And yet Beyonce has turned the Grammys into her own personal validation station for decades now, to such a degree that her sycophants will actually, she and her sycophants will actually portray her as a victim of racism, because it has taken longer than what she would have approved of for her to get Artist of the Year. I talked about a while ago about how Kirsten Dunst has been out talking about how she only got I don't remember the exact numbers, but a only like a few $1,000,000 for all 3 Spider-Man movies, while Tobey Maguire, who played Spider-Man, got made huge numbers, obviously. And I said back then, I said, okay, I could go the angle of talking about the wage gap, the idea that women are paid 25 cents less, roughly 25 cents less than the men that their male counterparts in the workplace. I could talk about that. I could talk about how that's a zombie lie that proceeds from a misunderstanding about how wages versus earnings are tabulated, and that it's referring to the fact that women are more likely to take time out of the workforce for things like having children and that sort of thing, and that affects the overall earnings of all men and all women when compared to all men. It's not the same thing as saying that all men make this amount and all women make this amount. That one man and one woman are paid $1.75 for the same work, respectively. I could talk about that. I could go into the details of all that, but none of that matters, because I'm sorry, but those issues do not apply to you when you are mind-blowingly rich and successful. It does. If you have $25 million to your name, enough money that you will never have to work again, and if you played your cards right, your children might never have to work in their entire lives if they inherited the money and were responsible with it. They could even set up their grandchildren to have a leg up in life with that money that you have, if you just disseminated it lived out the rest of your life and disseminated the remainder to them. That's the kind of money you're talking about. When you have $25 million in the bank, none of this matters anymore. The reason that the wage gap discussion matters is because it affects day-to-day working people who are struggling to get by. And in that situation, yes, if you are a woman who is making 75 cents to the dollar that a man is making, that 25% difference fucking matters. Yeah, at that point, it matters. If it really matters, because that affects, when we're talking about your ability to pay your rent, your ability to keep the power and water turned on, your ability to put food on the table, your ability to raise your children. Yes, now these things matter. When you're just trying to do the basic necessities of life, now those discrepancies matter. Somebody years ago told me something that was tried to bait me into a discussion about this, was something that was like, well, the richest actor in the world is worth $95 million, and the richest richest actress in the world is only worth $75 million, or is worth $90 million, and the other one's worth 70. These are not the exact numbers, but it was something like this. Is only worth $75 million. What does that tell you? Nothing. You have $75 million. Go enjoy your great life. And that's the same thing here. Racism is ultimately a problem of people that are at the flatline bottom of society. Beyonce Knowles has definitely a net worth in the I'm sure the hundreds of millions of dollars, if not broaching the billions. But she has a massive, massive net worth, millions of dollars. I am sorry, lady, but you have reached racism escape velocity. You and your husband will always have enough money, a bar, unless unless Donald Trump really does succeed in um, it really does succeed in obliterating the Constitution to such a degree that slavery becomes legal again. Unless that happens, as long as the system as it exists now continues puttering along, I'm sorry, you and your husband will always have enough money to not have to deal with actual racism. And the proof of that is that you and your sycophants think you were a victim of racism because you snapped your fingers and told the Grammys to hand over an Artist of the Year award to you, and they didn't do it quite fast enough. God, good Lord. You know what? Uh, Jason Becker, my favorite guitarist of all time. Most people don't know who that is. Now, if you are a guitarist, especially a metal guitarist, you have most likely heard that name. But outside of that, most people will not know who that is. But Jason Becker was, my favorite guitarist of all time. Go listen to the album Perpetual Burn, and you will know very quickly why he's my favorite guitarist. It requires no explanation. But he is most closely associated with the uh, Mike Varney Shrapnel Records shred movement of the mid to late 80s, and shred guitar movement of the mid to late 80s. And when he was a young man, when he was a teenager, he was a child prodigy on the guitar, and he was already being touted as the next guitar god. This was going to be, people were already saying this is the next Eddie Van Halen, this is the next Steve Vai. He was touring the world with a band called Cacophony, where he was the co-lead guitarist with Marty Friedman, who went on to play in Megadeth and now has a huge solo career and all that. But he did two albums with Cacophony that are amazing. He did Perpetual Burn when he was in his late teens, early 20s, and it is a record. People study that album for years and years, well past the age at which he recorded it, learning those songs. It is a technical accomplishment on an almost superhuman level, and yet it also is beautifully composed. The compositions themselves are beautiful. It's a stunning masterwork of an achievement. I have been personally, I am 41. I have been I've wanted to do a guitar instrumental album for a long time. I have written and thrown out one song after another, not thrown out, but decided not to record one song after another, because I will not rest until I have finally done something that I can say, this is my perpetual burn. I don't want to do anything less than that. People work their whole lives as musicians to have that level of technical and artistic accomplishment on their instruments. The comparisons to Steve Vai and Eddie Van Halen are very apropos, because Jason got his big break when he was hired to play for David Lee Roth. And he he played lead guitar on the album A Little Ain't Enough, which is an excellent record. But you'll notice if you listen to the solos on that album, they actually, for the most part, are not terribly technical solos. And the reason for that is that Jason was losing his ability to play. And the reason he was losing his ability to play was because he had developed Lou Gehrig's disease. And it's such a heartbreaking thing, because by all accounts, 100% of all accounts, Jason was and is one of the kindest, most generous, unselfish, humble, and fundamentally decent people that you could ever possibly imagine. Just an absolute sweetheart. And they talked. I heard a story one time about how when he was doing, I think it may have been, it was when he was on doing one of the albums he's on. He was living in a hotel near the studio at the time while they were doing it, and there was this cleaning lady that was like an older woman who was the cleaning lady, and they developed this really nice rapport and everything, and were very friendly, would talk and had such a nice time just with the cleaning lady, someone most people ignore. And when he was done at the end of the week, when he was moving out of the hotel, he brought her flowers. It's such a nice, and again, a cleaning lady at a hotel, somebody most people ignore. And that was just the most fundamentally decent, warm-hearted person you could possibly imagine. No arrogance, not a jerk, no sense of entitlement. Somebody who worked very hard for everything he got, and he was struck down with Lou Gehrig's disease. Jason continues to, he is still alive to this day. He is he's in late middle age now, going, this is 40 plus years later, so he's in late middle age going into elderly years at this point. I guess he'd be in his 60s, probably close to 60 at this point, if not already 60. But anyway, he's still alive, he's completely paralyzed, and he communicates with a system with his eyes. His father developed the Becker board, which is patented. And basically, the Becker board involves making two eye motions for each letter of the alphabet, and that's how he communicates. And using that method, he continues to write music. He has an album that came out a few years ago called Triumphant Hearts that people were trying so hard to get nominated for a Grammy. Jason wrote this entire album with his eyes in that method, painstakingly, it literally, like Stephen Hawking, wrote an entire album, composed every single note on the staff, on actual sheet music, using only his eyes. It was the end result of years and years and years of the most patient work you could possibly imagine. There are guitar solos on the album that were played by Jason, because what they were able to do was take old home recordings that he'd made of guitar solos that were, to a click, and import those into these new songs. So we actually get to hear Jason alongside Steve Vai and Marty Friedman and I believe Richie Kotzen and Rusty Cooley, Uli John Roth, and all of these guitarists, all these guys came together to make this album a reality. And people were trying so hard when Triumphant Hearts came out. People were trying so hard to get that album at least nominated for a Grammy. You know why? Because that Grammy nominated, that would get Jason, that would secure his legacy to such a degree that his mom and dad, who are very old and very worried about what's going to happen to their son after they're gone and they're no longer there to provide round-the-clock care for him, help provide round-the-clock care for him and pay for it and help finance it and all of that, we're very worried about what that's going to look like when that day comes. They would be a little more at peace, secure in the knowledge that you could put at least Grammy nominated next to his name. That would turn so many more heads and get him so much more recognition to help get him the money he needs to stay alive. So you stop and think about that for a minute. Beyonce will never hear this message, but if she did, I wish she could hear it. and hear that and have a little bit of of perspective. To have the gall, bringing it back around to my Kirsten Dunst thing, no, I'm sorry, you're not a victim of racism because you didn't get your Artist of the Year Grammy fast enough. And certainly not when you've already won more Grammys than anyone else alive. The idea that this award is some great significant cultural milestone, or that it proves that you, Beyonce, are better than the Grammys, too black for the Grammys, that you're somehow better than the Grammys, above it all, that they're finally bowing at your feet in full recognition of the awesomeness that is you. It is not impressive. It does not speak to your human accomplishment. What you sound like are the people who think they're really hot shit because they have high scores and on Twin Galaxies arcade machines. Twin Galaxies that does the official logging of video game high score, arcade game high scores. Like, you sound like Billy Mitchell, okay? Billy Mitchell, someone who also has a history of very tainted victories in his background. But yeah, no, you saying I finally got Artist of the Year after you won all these other Grammys, that's about as impressive to me as you saying, oh, I'm known worldwide for having the high score on Dig Dug and Elevator Action and Burger Time and Pac-Man and Rolling Thunder and Dragon's Lair and Asteroids and Battlezone and Pong and Tetris and this and that and the other, but I just can't sleep until I get that high score on Donkey Kong. I know that's important to you. I know that means a lot to you, but to people who have their head, people who really value, have an actual sense of good values and value actual achievements, actual accomplishments in life, that does not mean very much at all. And that's what you sound like. That's all you sound like when you finally get your Artist of the Year award, and the best thing you and your sycophants can come up with is, well, it's about damn time, in essence. Is the most pathetic, asinine portrayal. And if you are at all offended because I said that Beyonce is not a victim of racism and she's so rich she never will be, you need to get your head screwed on straight about actual suffering and actual human misery in this world. Because no, I'm sorry, once you're up there in the pantheon of the gods, what's going on with us mere mortals down here on the ground does not apply to you anymore. And like I said, unless Trump succeeds in destroying the Constitution to such a degree that slavery becomes legal again, if the current system of the United States persists as it is now for the rest of Beyonce and Jay-Z's lives, then they have reached racism escape velocity. No, I'm sorry, no unfortunate slight that you encounter can be ascribed to racism. I'm sorry, no. And, this is why it's just, obviously, there's a lot of truth in the old saying that gold sinks and shit floats, especially comparing Beyonce to Jason Becker. But it really is, it really is sad. I was watching a video earlier about Schopenhauer. It was a philosophy video about Arthur Schopenhauer's observations about brilliance and intelligence, that being brilliant and intelligent is can actually be a lot more of a hindrance to you in the long run, because most people are put off by intelligence in a way that they're not put off by other forms of exceptionalism. because it's borne out by kind of the psychological and sociological research of that's been done in the many decades since Schopenhauer's death. That yes, people are when you're highly intelligent to the point of brilliance, people are intimidated. They're scared because they feel like you could put something over on them and they wouldn't know what you were doing or be able to respond to it properly. And so what they prefer to do is exalt mediocrity as being exceptional and wonderful because it's talent within prescribed limits that don't threaten them. And while I started to try to listen to Cowboy Carter before I made this video, and got bored very quickly. There's no doubt that Beyonce can sing harmony. There's no doubt that she is a talented vocalist. But those should all be the minimum thresholds for entry, not signs that she's a vocalist that deserves a Grammy. But I couldn't get into it. I couldn't commit to it. Her music is so aggressively bland to me that it's that thing of like, trying to be, it's kind of like trying to be happy for the most popular girl in high school. It's like the most popular girl, head of the cheerleading squad, beautiful girl that has all the guys falling at her feet and everything, gets nominated homecoming queen. Wins homecoming queen, or she wins prom queen. As of course she was, that kind of thing. Like, do you feel motivated to tell her congratulations? No, not really. And that's where we are with Beyonce. And yeah, it's a damn shame. And yeah, I am jealous. I am, and I hate that we have gotten to this point where we exalt mediocrity to such a degree that Beyonce, Beyonce sees success within the prescribed limits of the common man and the common woman as being this kind of high score game, or I guess she's gotta get them all, gotta catch them all, So, yeah, Beyonce, I hope you're happy with your Album of the Year award. I have a feeling what's going to happen is you're going to start putting out more albums that don't win Album of the Year, and instead of why hasn't she won a single Album of the Year award Grammy, the articles are going to start saying, why has it only been one? Why has it been so long since she got, the most important, the most singular, most important, groundbreaking artist of our time, whose contributions to the human race are transcend even that of Jesus Christ to such a degree that God himself is stepping off his throne and ushering Beyonce into her place. I hope you're happy. I really do. But yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be another. It's just going to continue to be another thing of why has it only been one? Why when insert name of white male artist has won this many Grammys, why is the most important human being that's ever lived only won one award? One Artist of the Year award. That's where we're going next with this. And Hollywood is in this, the entertainment industry is in this aggressively strange downward spiral where they just seem to want to, they seem to want to just hate fuck us with inanity to the point that to the point that everything that comes out of them just washes over us. Every new movie until the point that every new movie is ignored. Every bit of celebrity news is ignored. They are like, it's like they are fortifying themselves in a fortress of of irrelevance or something. But anyway, you know, I hope she's happy. I know she's not.